As you may have heard, the Republican-led House voted to expel 2 Democratic lawmakers. It was all over this student-led protest last week, demanding gun control legislation shortly after that school shooting in Nashville that left 6 dead. 3 lawmakers took part in the protest, but only the 2 black Democrats were expelled, Representatives Jones and Justin Pearson. Representative Gloria Johnson, who is white, narrowly avoided being voted out. Now, Republicans said Jones and Pearson violated House rules by using bullhorns while in the chamber and had to be held to account. Here's what Jones had to say about being expelled.
That a week after a mass shooting plagued our community, the most direct action this legislative body takes, or should I say my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are taking, is to expel us. We called for you all to ban assault weapons, and you respond with an assault on democracy.
Wow. Okay, so to help us understand what is going on and to put it into context, please welcome award-winning civil rights attorney and author Areva Martin. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam. Always a pleasure to see you. Unfortunately, we are meeting on a day when we are watching this assault on democracy, as former Representative Jones said so eloquently as he addressed these GOP leaders who so condescendingly dismiss these 2 young African-American leaders, not because of this so-called decorum, but it's very clear that this is an assault on African-American leadership. It's an assault on African-American voters, and it's one that every Democrat should not take sitting down.
Areva, we appreciate you being here, and I know it's hard to make sense out of nonsense, but let's get into it because we got to figure out what's going on here. I want you to hear what Representative Gloria Johnson said about her 2 male colleagues being expelled when she wasn't. Here's what she told CNN.
I will answer your question. It might have to do with the color of our skin.
So what do you think about her statement?
I'm so glad that she was honest. I'm glad she had the courage to stand up and to speak truth to power. It's no doubt that these 2 young men were targeted. And if you hear them talk about what happened, it's not just about their protest. It's about them being in that state house. I heard Representative Jones say last night that he is frequently called names by his colleagues. He's frequently taunted by his colleagues. He says it's a toxic workplace, and not, again, because he's protesting over gun control laws, but simply because he's an African-American male in a position of leadership.
Yeah, I mean, we covered the story of that congressperson that called AOC out of her name on the steps of Congress. He used and we're happy you're here. Let's just
no, we all feel it.
It's so mind-blowing. I don't know how to even formulate questions, but people are saying that these lawmakers technically broke the rules, and Republicans say it's important to hold them accountable. So what is your take on this?
No doubt. You can set your rules as a legislative body, but to disenfranchise millions of people, you're talking about the people in Nashville, Tennessee, the people in Memphis, Tennessee. These are the cities, the largest African-American cities in Tennessee that these representatives represent. So you're not just throwing these 2 African-American leaders out. You are disenfranchising the voters that put them in office. There's so many other things that could have been done. There could have been fines. There could have been assessments made against these legislators. This is unprecedented even in Tennessee's history. They've only expelled legislators on 3 other occasions, and none of those 3 other occasions had to do with so-called breaking decorum. So we know that legislators also have a First Amendment right. These individuals were not disrupting for the sake of disrupting. They were talking about a very important issue that the GOP has refused to take up. And you can tell from some of the language, the lead GOP leader talked about what these 3 representatives did as being comparable to the January 6th insurrection. He talked about them exercising their freedom of speech as if they were throwing, he used the word tantrums. So again, he's talking to his colleagues as if they are children. He thinks this is 1950, not 2023. He thinks this is the South, where African Americans are second-class citizens and white men in positions of power have the authority to rule over African Americans. It's a new day. It's a new time. And I know that these 2 young men are going to use this moment for good. We're going to see them not only continue, I think, to represent individuals in Tennessee, but I would not be surprised if this doesn't propel them to national leadership as well.
Well said, Areva. I just want to piggyback on your statement of how you mentioned the supremacy of it all, because there's history here, of course, in Tennessee, but recent history with these legislators where the Republican legislators had gotten away with egregious criminal activity. Did they lose their seat? Were they expelled? No. There was one who was grooming a teenager, which had a sexual component to it and many details. That was an actual criminal charge. There was another criminal charge with fraud, another where there was an alleged incident of urinating on someone else's chair. So that was all excused, Areva. But then protesting peacefully, and you used a bullhorn because your mics were cut, that's more egregious than grooming a teenager and sexual alleged assault? Make it make sense.
Yeah, this can't make sense because this is gaslighting. And when they stand up and say this is all about the rules, we know it's not about the rules because those examples that you just gave that's far more egregious conduct that you would think, to the extent anyone was going to be expelled, that they would be expelled for that conduct. This is such an unprecedented move for anyone to expel a legislator that has been voted into office by their constituents. Again, it's so much bigger than those individuals. It's saying to all of those voters that your votes don't matter, that we can decide on any given day to disenfranchise thousands and thousands of voters. And it's not just happening in Tennessee. We better wake up, people, because this is happening throughout this country. You can go to Florida, you can go to Montana, you can go to Texas. This is an effort by the GOP that can't win elections fair-handedly. So they're using their power in these state houses to quash any dissenters, any opposition, and not just the legislators that they don't want voices to be heard. It's the people. It's the people of Tennessee who came to protest. Their voices are also being quelled in this process of GOP trying to use their power, and I would say not use it, but abuse their power.
Areva, I love your points here. I just want to talk about the law. I think everything else is important. We only have like a minute left here. But in the past, lawmakers who broke the rules, just like this, reported to an ethics committee first. Why didn't that happen here?
That wasn't the plan. The plan is to silence these young African-American men. You've heard them. You see how powerful their voices are. You see how powerful their organizing abilities are. They were able to get 1,000 people to jam the chambers of that House, mothers and working people and everyday people. And that's scary to these Republicans. So they didn't use the process that would normally be used when someone breaks the rules. They used the ultimate hammer. It's not going to work, though. I am confident that these young men will be restored to their offices either through this process in Tennessee that allows an appointment process or through even re-election. Now the question becomes, will they even seat them if they are reappointed? But this story is far from over. This is just the beginning, and this whole country is now paying attention to Tennessee, and I think they're going to pay a huge price for their abuse of power.
Well said, Areva Martin. We appreciate you more than you know, Areva. We know how busy you are. You wear so many hats. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today, to clarify, and for your passion.